Many years ago, in the heart of Doha, where the sun blazed relentlessly upon its people, lived a man named Bulu. He was calm, kind, and undeniably successful. Yet in a crowd, one could easily pass by without noticing him, not because he was invisible, but because of his small stature. Though in his 30s, Bulu appeared no older than an 18-year-old boy. His youthful face and slender frame often made others mistake him for a teenager. Since childhood, he had always been the smallest among his peers, enduring their teasing and nicknames like Kasuku, a parrot, due to his petite build. However, those who underestimated him soon realized their mistake. What he lacked in size, he more than compensated for, with wisdom. People respected him, for he always had the right words for every situation. Yet despite his intelligence, there was one aspect of Bulu's life that left people puzzled. His choice of a wife. His fiancée, Zaadi, was his complete opposite. She wasn't just big, she was imposing. Among men, she could easily be mistaken for the leader of a wrestling team. With a powerful voice and a commanding presence, even the wind seemed to part. In her wake, when Bulu introduced Zaadi as his future wife, the town erupted in gossip. It became the talk of the year. "Have you seen her?" whispered Mama Fatuma, a fish seller. "That woman, my sister. She's built like an elephant. I pity Bulu. She looks like she could lift him with one hand." Everywhere, people murmured their disbelief. How will he manage? A friend wondered. They say love is blind, but in this case, it must also be deaf. The day Bulu introduced Zaadi to his friends, the reaction was nothing short of dramatic. A young lady jokingly remarked that they almost fainted. "Bulu, you mean to tell us this is the woman you have chosen?" Sim asked, eyes wide with disbelief. "Yes, my brother," Bulu replied with pride. "This is my wife, my queen." Juma coughed, struggling to contain his laughter. "Bulu, are you marrying a wife or hiring a bodyguard?" The entire group burst into laughter, but Bulu remained, unfazed. He turned to Zaadi with warmth in his eyes and smiled. "Juma, love doesn't measure height. It measures the heart." People continued to mock them, but Bulu didn't care. Their marriage began beautifully, and for the first few months, life was as sweet as fresh honey. Zaadi respected Bulu and never made him feel inferior. He was convinced he had made the right choice. Until one day, everything changed. It started subtly with indirect insults. At first, she affectionately called him "my king," but soon, that stopped. Instead, she began referring to him as "small man." The warmth in her gestures faded. Instead of serving his meals with care, she would drop his plate onto the table with a loud bang. One evening, Bulu returned home hungry, his spirits lifting as the rich aroma of ugali and nyama choma filled the air. He sat at the table, patiently waiting. Minutes later, Zaadi emerged from the kitchen, sat down, and began eating. Alone. Something was off. "Zaadi, where is my food?" he asked. Without looking up, she pointed toward the kitchen. "Go serve yourself." Bulu froze in shock. He had never seen this side of her before. Still, he chose to excuse her behavior, assuming she'd had a bad day. Swallowing his pride, he got up and served himself. Unfortunately, the next day was worse. Zaadi's demeanor toward him continued to shift. She sighed whenever he spoke, rolling, her eyes as if his presence was an annoyance. Her gaze held none of the affection it once did, but Bulu reassured himself that marriage had its seasons. Perhaps this was just a passing phase. What he didn't realize was that he was stepping into a storm. One Saturday morning, Bulu woke up early, as he always did, and prepared tea. He set it on the table and waited for Zaadi to come out. When she finally emerged, she stretched, yawned, then glanced at the table. "What is this?" she asked. Bulu smiled. "It's tea, my love." Zaadi picked up the cup, took a sip, then immediately spat it out. With a look of disgust, she flung the cup across the room. Bulu jumped in shock. "Zaadi, why did you do that?" "This tea is disgusting," she snapped. "Am I supposed to drink tea like a poor person? Where is the milk? Where is the sugar?" Bulu was baffled. "But my love, this is the same tea I always make." Before he could finish, the sharp sound of a slap echoed through the room. Silence fell. Bulu touched his cheek, feeling the sting of the slap. His voice trembled with disbelief. Why did you hit me?" Zaadi scoffed. "Because you're wasting my time with your useless excuses." Bulu stared at her, stunned. "Zaadi, I am your husband. You can't just hit me over tea." "Then make proper tea next time," she snapped, picking up her phone and walking out of the house. Bulu sat down, still rubbing his face. He couldn't believe what had just happened. At first, Zaadi's temper had been like a small flame, annoying but manageable. But soon, it turned into a raging inferno. She no longer needed a reason to be angry. Some days, she simply woke up in a foul mood and took it out on him. If he greeted her the wrong way, she would slap him. If he coughed too loudly, she would kick him. On particularly bad days, she would rain down punches. And worst of all, the neighbors had started to notice. One evening, Bulu returned home early from work. Exhausted, he just wanted to eat and sleep. Zaadi was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone. As soon as he walked in, she looked up. "Where are you coming from?" she asked. Bulu sighed. "From work, my love," she scoffed. "Work? You call that place you go to every day work? I don't even know why they hired you. Maybe they have a soft spot for small people." Bulu forced a smile and walked to the dining table. "Have you eaten?" he asked gently. "Of course, I have. Do I look like someone who waits for you to bring food?" Bulu scratched his head. "What about me? What did you cook?" Zaadi rolled her eyes. "Am I your mother? Must I cook for you every day? You'd better go eat outside." Swallowing his pride, Bulu went to the kitchen, found some leftovers, and sat down to eat. He had barely taken 2 bites when something struck the back of his head. Bang! Stars flashed before his eyes. He turned around to see Zaadi holding a wooden spoon. "You useless man! Why are you chewing so loudly?" she snapped. "Zaadi, you hit me because I was eating?" "Yes, and if you keep making noise, I'll pour that food on your head." Bulu sighed and continued eating in silence. He knew better than to argue. Then one night, the entire neighborhood heard everything. Bulu had just finished his bath and stepped into the bedroom, drying his head with a towel. Zaadi stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed. "You used my towel, didn't you?" she accused. Bulu blinked. "Which towel?" "The pink one. The one I told you never to touch." Bulu looked at the towel in his hands and realized it was pink. He had made a mistake. "My love, it was an accident. Before he could finish, Zaadi's palm landed across his face in a sharp slap. Bulu stumbled backward. "Zaadi, why are you hitting me?" She slapped him again. "Because you're a disrespectful goat." Bulu raised his hands in surrender. "I didn't know. I'll never do it again." But his words only fueled Zaadi's anger. Her voice grew louder. "Oh, now you're talking back? You think just because you're a man, you can argue with me?" Another slap, this one louder than the rest. Next door, Mama O whispered to her husband. That night, Bulu lay in bed, frustrated and hungry. The next morning, as he rushed to work, his neighbor Mamito stopped him. "Bulu, my son, come here." He forced a smile. "Good morning, Mamito." Mamito glanced around, then lowered her voice. My son, is it true? Is your wife beating you? Bulu froze. Who told you that? Ah, my son. We hear everything. Just yesterday, we heard her call you a rat and tell you to sleep outside. Bulu sighed. Mamito, it's just small misunderstandings. She placed her hands on her hips. Small misunderstandings? My son, if a misunderstanding gives you a black eye, it is no longer small. Look at your face. It's swollen. Bulu chuckled nervously and covered his face. I can handle it, thank you. Mamito shook her head. Just don't die in that house. One Saturday morning, Bulu and Zaadi went to the market. As usual. She walked 5 steps ahead while he followed like a personal assistant. When they reached the vegetable stand, she pointed at some tomatoes. How much for these? She asked the seller. 2,000 Tanzanian shillings per kilo, the seller replied. Zaadi turned to Bulu, her voice sharp. Where is the money? Bulu blinked. Which money? She fumed. Did you not hear me? Where is the money? But my love, I thought you were the one holding it. Zaadi didn't bother with words. Slap! Right there in front of the entire market. People froze in shock. A little boy tapped his mother. Mama, why is that big woman beating her small son? He whispered. Meanwhile, Bulu's ears rang. He touched his cheek in disbelief. The market. Women stared in horror, waiting for his reaction. But when he did nothing, they scoffed. Ah, men of these days. How can a full-grown man be beaten by his wife in public? Another man, a butcher, laughed. This man is finished. He's officially her handbag. Bulu wanted the ground to swallow him, but Zaadi wasn't done. She grabbed his collar and shook him like a child. Give me the money now, you useless man. Bulu struggled to speak. I left my wallet at home. Zaadi sighed dramatically, then turned to the tomato seller. Sorry, my little boy here forgot to bring money. Bulu froze. Did she just call me her little boy? The entire market erupted in laughter. By now, his suffering was no longer private. It had become the biggest joke in town, especially in the compound where he lived. The male neighbors had seen and heard everything. The slaps, the kicks, the insults. But instead of helping, they mocked him. One evening, Bulu walked into the compound carrying a small bag of groceries. As usual, he kept his head down, avoiding eye contact with the men sitting outside. But today, he wasn't lucky. Bulu, come here, my brother, called Kasim, the loudest among them. Bulu hesitated. I'm tired, Kasim. Maybe tomorrow. Stop that, another man said, waving him over. Come, let's talk like men. Bulu sighed and walked toward them. They sat around, chewing roasted maize and laughing loudly. Bulu, my friend. Kasim grinned. How was today's beating? The men burst into laughter. Bulu forced a smile. You people like to joke too much. An older man wiped tears from his eyes. But seriously, my son, you can't continue like this. Every night we hear boom, bang. Your house sounds like a wrestling match. The men laughed again. Salim, a tall, muscular man, shook his head. Bulu, let me ask you, did you marry a wife or a professional boxer? Bulu shifted uncomfortably. See, my brothers, Zaadi is my wife. I know she has a temper, but she will change. Kasim raised an eyebrow. Change? Are you waiting for a government policy to change her? Another round of laughter. The older man leaned forward, his voice serious. Listen, my son. A woman like that does not listen to words. You must deal with her like a man. The others nodded in agreement. Yes, give her some discipline. Show her who is the head of the house. Just one slap, my brother, and she'll respect you. Salim punched his palm mischievously. If I had a wife like that, eh? She would have understood discipline from day one. Bulu listened quietly, then shook his head. No, I cannot do that. The laughter died down. Kasim frowned. Why? Are you afraid of her? Bulu shook his head. No, I'm not afraid of her. I'm afraid for her. The men stared at him, confused. What do you mean? Bulu rubbed his forehead. Zaadi thinks I'm weak because I don't fight back. But the truth is, if I ever raise my hand against her, she might not survive it. Silence. Then, the men burst into uncontrollable laughter. Listen to this man! Kasim cackled. So now you're telling us that you, the one being beaten, daily like a stubborn goat, could actually finish her? Bulu, stop pretending. We know you're just afraid. But Bulu remained calm. No, Kasim. I know my strength. And I know my wife. She's not as strong as she thinks. I believe she will change. I'll just be patient. Kasim rolled his eyes. Okay, keep believing your delusions. Meanwhile, we'll keep enjoying the free entertainment every night. Bulu stood up. Good night, my friends. He walked away, leaving them laughing behind him. A few days later, after another terrible night of beatings, Bulu went to work as usual, his face still sore from Zaadi's slap the night before. When he returned that evening, he passed by the compound. This time, the men didn't even greet him. Kasim shook his head dramatically. Ah, my brothers, let us have a moment of silence for our fallen soldier. The men bowed their heads, pretending to mourn. We have lost a brave man. One sighed deeply. Bulu, you are the first man in history to be turned into a housewife while still being called a husband. Another chimed in. Salim wiped fake tears. Even my younger sister is stronger than you, my brother, and she's only 7 years old. Laughter echoed through the compound, but Bulu ignored them and walked inside. In his heart, he was weeping. When will this humiliation end? Will Zaadi ever change? That night, after yet another beating, Bulu sat on the floor, holding his ribs. Zaadi had just finished kicking him for breathing too loudly while she was watching TV. Why are you like this, Bulu? She snapped. Even a rat has more presence than you. Bulu looked at her painfully. Zaadi, do you even love me? She scoffed. Love? Do you even deserve love? Something pierced through Bulu's heart. He went to bed without another word. He had accepted his fate. Until one day he realized just how bad it had become. At work, where Bulu was a supervisor, he was respected, or at least, he thought so. One afternoon he called his subordinate, Musa, and gave him an order. Musa, I need you to file these reports before the end of the day. Musa leaned back in his chair and smirked. File them yourself. Bulu blinked. Excuse me? Musa stood up, crossed his arms and laughed. You're coming here to command us, eh? When you can't even control your own house? The other workers stopped what they were doing, listening intently. Bulu's heart skipped a beat. No. Let it not be what I'm thinking. Musa, what are you saying? Musa shrugged. Don't pretend you don't know. Everyone in this office knows how your wife beats you every day. You're only a man here, but inside your house you're a small boy. A small rat. Laughter erupted across the office. Hot shame spread through Bulu's body. He wanted to disappear. He said nothing. He simply turned and walked away. That evening, Bulu walked home like a rat drenched in water. His mind was clouded with humiliation. Even my workers don't respect me. I have become a joke. He entered the house quietly, hoping to avoid a fight. But Zaadi was already waiting for him. "You useless man!" she shouted the moment he stepped inside. "Where have you been?" Bulu sighed. "I was at work." "What nonsense work? You're just going there to embarrass yourself. Do you know people are laughing at you in this town? Are you even a man?" Bulu winced. She already knows. "Zaadi, please, not today," he pleaded. But she only yelled louder. "Not today what?" Before he could react, she slapped him hard. Then she punched him in the chest. As if that wasn't enough, she grabbed his collar and shook him violently. "I am talking to you, you small rat." Bulu closed his eyes and then, at that moment, something snapped inside him. For the first time in his life, his hand moved on its own. Before he could stop it, before he could control it, his palm landed on Zaadi's face. Slap! Zaadi's eyes widened in shock. Her legs wobbled. She staggered backward and collapsed onto the floor. Bulu's heart stopped. "Zaadi!" She didn't move. Panicked, he knelt beside her, shaking her gently. "Zaadi, wake up! I didn't mean to, She remained still. Bulu's breath went on vacation. Oh no, I am finished." He stumbled to his feet and ran outside. "Somebody, please help me! Help!" Neighbors came out of their homes to see what was happening. But the moment they saw Zaadi lying on the floor, they silently withdrew and locked their doors. The compound was silent. The same neighbors who had always told Bulu to be a man were suddenly nowhere to be found. Bulu cried out, "Please help me. Zaadi is not waking up." Panic rose in his chest. These people advised me to hit her, and now they have abandoned me. Left with no choice, he carried Zaadi on his back and ran to the hospital. Please let her be alive. Please, God, save her. At the hospital, Bulu waited outside the emergency room, his hands trembling. Then a group of young men arrived. They looked furious, vengeful. One of them, Kiban, pointed directly at him. "That's him." Another, Salem sneered. "So you finally killed her, eh?" Bulu stood up, confused. "Killed who? Zaadi is not dead." Kiban stepped forward. "You think we don't know? You've been beating your wife every day, and now you've killed her." Bulu's jaw dropped. "What? I have never touched her before today. She was the one beating me." The young men laughed mockingly. "Look at this man, a full-grown man, claiming his wife was beating him. Do we look stupid to you?" Bulu staggered backward. "I swear I'm not lying. Today was self-defense. But they didn't listen. One of them clenched his fist. "Let's teach him a lesson." Just as the first punch was about to land, a loud voice interrupted them. "Stop!" Everyone turned. It was Mamito. She stepped forward, hands on her hips, eyes blazing. "You fools! Do you even know what you're about to do?" Kiban scoffed. "Mamito, please stay out of this. This man is a murderer." Mamito glared at him. "Are you all blind? Don't you know what's been happening in this town?" Salem frowned. "What do you mean?" Mamito pointed at Bulu. "This man has suffered for a very long time. Zaadi beats him like a drum every day. Where were all of you when she was slapping, kicking, and insulting him, Now, because he defended himself once, you want to kill him?" The young men froze, their anger replaced by confusion. "Wait. Zaadi was the one beating Bulu?" Mamito nodded. "Yes. If you were his neighbors, you would know. Every night it was either boom, bang, and it wasn't him doing the beating. There, fists lowered, their faces paled. Then, at that moment, a nurse rushed out. "She's awake." Bulu turned and ran inside. Zaadi was lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Their eyes met. Bulu braced himself for insults, for yelling, for another slap. But instead, she closed her eyes and looked away. The next morning, Zaadi was discharged from the hospital. Still, she didn't say a word to Bulu. She just walked beside him quietly, holding her handbag. Deep in thought. Bulu kept stealing glances at her, waiting for the explosion. But nothing came. No insults, no side comments, no small man remarks, nothing. Even when they got home, she just went straight to bed. No tantrums, no shouting. Bulu didn't trust it. Maybe she's still weak from the hospital. Probably tomorrow she'll return, to normal. But the next day, before he left for work, she still said nothing. And when he returned, everything had changed. Bulu walked into the compound that night, tired and hungry, bracing himself for the usual headache. "Let me just enter, take my bath in peace," Bulu muttered to himself as he approached the door. "Let me just enter, take my bath, and eat my food in peace." But before he could reach for the handle, Zaadi ran to open the door for him. "Daddy, you are welcome, sir." Then she knelt down. Bulu froze. Who is she talking to? Before he could react, she took his bag from him. "You must be very tired, sir. Let me help you." Bulu's mouth dropped open in shock. "Sir?" As he sat on the couch, still looking behind him in confusion, Zaadi rushed back with a chilled glass of water. "Yes, sir, please drink first. Let me go and bring your food." Bulu stared at the glass. Is this a trap? Did she put something inside? Before he could process anything, Zaadi ran to the kitchen like a trained waitress. Moments later, she returned with a full tray of steaming food, ugali, yacha, and a side of fresh greens. Then she knelt down to serve him. Bulu almost fainted. "Zaadi, are you okay?" he asked cautiously. She nodded humbly. "Yes, sir. Please eat well. You need to regain your strength." Bulu held his head in confusion. "What is happening? Did someone reset my wife? Is this witchcraft? Is she planning to harm me in my sleep?" He poked at the food carefully, making sure it wasn't poisoned. But it was perfect. For the first time, in months, Zaadi had served him food with love. Yet that night, Bulu couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, watching Zaadi closely, waiting for her to wake up and return to factory settings. But she slept peacefully, like a woman with no grudges. The next morning, she woke up early, swept the house, cooked breakfast, and even polished Bulu's shoes. Bulu had seen enough. He couldn't die in silence again. "Zaadi, please. We need to talk." She nodded quickly and sat down like a student ready for lessons. "Yes, sir." Bulu sighed and scratched his head. "Why have you been calling me sir?" She looked at him with shame. "Because you deserve it, sir." Bulu blinked twice. "No, please. Where is my wife? Who are you? And what have you done?" "With her?" Zaadi sighed deeply. "It is me, Zaadi. I am your wife. I know I have been terrible. I treated you like an animal and never respected you. I thought you were weak, but now I see that I was the foolish one." Bulu stared at her suspiciously. "So you just woke up one day and decided to be humble?" Zaadi shook her head. "No, it was the day I fell." "What do you mean?" "The day I hit the floor and lost consciousness, I had a dream. I saw myself lying in a dark place, and a voice said to me, 'If you do not change, this is where you will end up.' I woke up terrified. Only then did I realize I had almost destroyed my own life, and the best man I could ever ask for." Bulu sat back, slowly processing everything. "So, You mean to say that you have truly changed? Zaadi nodded. Yes, my love. I am ready to be the wife you deserve. Bulu took a deep breath. Then he did something unexpected. He held her hands. Zaadi, I also need to apologize. Even though you hurt me, I should have handled things differently. I should have spoken up earlier, instead of letting things get to this point. Zaadi fought back the tears in her eyes. No, my love. I was the problem. You were patient and kind. You never hit me back, even when I deserved it. You are a better person than I will ever be. Bulu smiled softly. Okay then. Let's start again, my love. And with that, they reconciled. From that day, Zaadi became a different woman. She never insulted Bulu again, never raised a hand against him. She treated him like a king. The neighbors were in shock. Makito forgot to close her mouth the day she saw Zaadi kneeling to serve Bulu food. Is this really Zaadi? She whispered. Another neighbor froze when she saw Zaadi washing Bulu's clothes. What exactly is happening in this house? Did a pastor come to pray for them? Even the men were confused. Bulu, what did you do to your wife? She now treats you like a king. But Bulu just laughed and said, let's just say, God works in mysterious ways. Peace had truly returned to his home. For the first time in several months, Bulu could sit in his own house and truly feel at home. It was now a case of Mikasa, Sukasa. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts in the comments section. Have you ever experienced a situation where the wife was the monster? Do you think Bulu handled his wife well? What do you think was the best thing he could have done differently? And what about those neighbors who advised him to retaliate, only to abandon him when trouble came? Please share this story with your loved ones, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Until I bring another story your way. Bye.